joining us tonight for this meeting of the Crewe Town Council. Item 1 on the agenda is to receive apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies?
We do, Chair. We have Councillors Faddis, Morrissey, Dunlop, Minshaw, Houston, Strain, Francis, Palin and Messent.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item 2 on the agenda is to note declarations of members' interests. Do any members have any interest to declare as they relate to items on the agenda?
None showing, Chair.
Right. On to item 3. To confirm and sign the minutes of the Crewe Town Council meeting held on 28th of June 2022. Do we have a proposer and a seconder for the draft minutes as circulated? Anybody? Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder?
Yeah, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Oh, no. One motion. I've got item 4.
That's fine.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Item 4 on the agenda is for public participation, but we don't have any, do we? Item 5 on the agenda is to receive updates from committee chairs in relation to meetings held since the previous Crewe Town Council meeting on 28th of June. First is the Finance and Governance Committee, so I'll hand over to the Chair, Councillor Jones.
Good evening. There are 3 items for consideration. First one is that a budget is made available of up to £15,000 to deliver compliant procurement advice and resources, increasing the council's needing to procure services and resources, and we actually need the right kind of we have the right kind of paperwork to do that. Then it will obviously save officer time and also give us more opportunity to perhaps look at a wider group of people to do those things. Number 2, that the draft refreshed corporate strategy 2020-24 is recommended to Council for approval prior to the creation of a new corporate strategy in 2024. So basically this is a refreshed corporate strategy as the Council is coming to the end of its term of office, and a new corporate strategy will be decided in 2024 when we get the new Council. So that's the, and that the amended medium-term financial plan is recommended to Council for approval. So that's the 3 things that are recommended. At F&G we did talk about the effects of inflation and the cost of living crisis on the Council's current budget and on possible future budgets. Obviously the Council will try to absorb whatever costs it can in the going forward, but we have had, well, it depends on your grade as an officer, but the NJC union employers have offered £1,900 to every employee as a deal, and depending on your scale that can either be an 8.9% increase or something down to 4%, but in the council budget we are not budgeted for that kind of increase in pay. We've gone with what was inflation when we set the budget, which was about 2%. So obviously that's going to be an in-year pressure and also pressure going forward. The ballot for that offer is currently still going on, so we don't know the result of that. But I think we also all recognise that heating and lighting costs are going to go up, and that again, you know, that will have an impact on the budget of the council, because we didn't budget for increases in energy, which we know through the summer has gone through the roof. So we're on track, but we do recognise that there are going to be some in-year pressures and also pressures on any future budgets. Thank you. So could I propose that as a council we accept those 3 items.
Do we have a seconder? Thank you. All those in favour?
That's carried, Chair.
Carried. The Operations and Improvements Committee met on the 1st of August with Councillor Messenwell in the chair. Now we'll propose the recommendations of that committee, but it's not...
We'll turn to the Vice Chair, Councillor Clark.
Yeah.
So items for consideration that it is recommended to Council that a 3-year commitment is approved for the service with ANSA, with appropriate clauses to provide flexibility for direct delivery. That the committee recommends to Council a term of 10 years for allotment site and federations. Item 3, that the committee recommends to Council the provision of a temporary resource for 6 months to administer and collect the necessary information and engagement with allotment sites and plot holders. Item 4, that the Council should consider if direct service delivery should be progressed as an option through devolution of the assets and services associated with Crewe, as it is in other towns.
Sorry, can I just check? For a point of clarification, members, the first one relates to Ranger services. Sorry, that was just straight copy and paste from the minutes, so that's just for clarity. And item 4, you may choose to take some discussion on. Or all of it, in fact, but that one in particular.
Just specifically on item 4 of that point, it says if the council should consider if direct service delivery should be progressed. What mode of consideration are you proposing?
That's down to your decision. It's a totally open thing. You must feel entirely free to decide where you take it, or if at all. There is no commitment to absorb any service or asset. It's whether you would have the ambition or consideration to see what would be involved in going down that road for direct service delivery in Crewe. The committee itself felt it was worth exploring. That's why it's the recommendation, but it's worded that way because it's a considerable decision. That's why I flagged it up for if you want any further discussion on it. It's not a commitment to absorb anything, it's a commitment to consider and explore.
The committee felt that we needed more information and more about the services which this would involve.
Yeah.
And
So just personally, I would say if it's just a cost-benefit analysis and so on, then there's absolutely no issue. I think we should be taking more responsibility for local delivery of services. So I'd be happy to propose all 4 of those points.
Do we have...
You're seconding. You're seconding. But we do have Councillor Angia. Sorry.
Angia. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think just that it is something to explore, and I think it is something that we're being encouraged to do. And I think it's important to look into it and go forward, and it's not the decision point yet, so I think definitely go forward with it.
All those in favour?
That's unanimous, Chair.
Unanimous, thank you. Next is the Marketing and Events Committee, met on the 5th of September, and their minutes have been circulated for noting.
That's correct. There were no recommendations. So
Oh, so that goes through.
yeah.
Right. Next is the Planning Committee, who met on the 27th of June and the 18th of July, and their minutes have been circulated for noting.
Okay. No recommendations there, Chair.
No recommendations.
Just noted.
Right. The Community Plan Committee met on 12th of September, and their minutes have been circulated for noting.
That's the same.
Same for that one. Goes through like this would be all right.
Personnel subcommittee, there's something to consider then.
The Personnel Subcommittee met on the 6th of September, Is there a proposer for the recommendations of that subcommittee?
Can I interrupt? Sorry, Councillor. I think Councillor Cosby has informed me of a proposed amendment.
Yeah, I'd just like to propose an amendment to the section of the employee handbook which relates to disability. Some of the language used in that particular section is just slightly outdated and refers to things like registers of disability which don't actually exist in the UK. So what I'd like to propose is that the text is altered to say the Town Council is a disability confident committed employer. We aim to eliminate disability discrimination in the workplace by ensuring our processes are inclusive and accessible, following our equal opportunities and diversity policy, considering all requests for reasonable adjustments and conforming with the Equality Act 2010. Should you experience any issues related to your disability or wish to discuss your health needs, please speak to your line manager and or the town clerk who will deal with this appropriately and in confidence.
I'm sorry, we've got a problem with the agenda. It jumps from F and then to I. And it doesn't actually detail anything for the subcommittee.
It provides that the F is just ABCDEF and it's I as in one.
Oh, it's one.
Yeah, that's okay. And the details in the pack that handbook as drafted, but Councillor Cosby quite understandably identified an improvement and he's proposing that amendment as an improvement to that. That's okay.
Oh, yes, Councillor.
Just saying I'll second.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Do we have a second then?
Got a second.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
Thank you. All those in favour?
Can I just also say that the Personnel Committee also checked that the appraisal system staff was going ahead and was working, and that staff had their appraisals as you would expect. So just to reassure councillors that that system is working and employees are getting their rights to have an appraisal and speak with the line manager.
Thank you. Item 6 is to note any updates from members having attended external meetings. Yes, Councillor Rose.
The town board met on Friday and Mr Turner was there and they passed the last project, which was for Crewe, which was suggested by the town council, which was to repurpose the high street, but unfortunately, because of the economic climate and what's happening on the high street in Crewe, that was not possible. But they've worked up another scheme which will give grants to businesses to improve their premises. And it's quite a, well, to me it's a complicated scheme that you've got to apply for grant. You've got to have a 20% like-for-like funding, but it will be an opportunity for the shopkeepers, not the landlords, the shopkeepers, to actually improve their business premises by using this grant. So hopefully we will see some improvements in the existing shops.
Is that just for High Street?
No, it's not just for High Street. They say we purpose the High Street, but they really mean all the streets in the town centre.
Yes, Councillor.
I attend again the town board, the Transport Green and Blue Infrastructure Forum, and we've further explored the idea of a connected walkway along the Valley Brook, with the aim of eventually joining up Mill Street with Queen's Park. I mention it because a lot of the work that was done there was done by Crewe Town Council officers, which was very gratefully received.
Thank you. Any other members got an update? No. Right, we'll move on to item 7. To note, consider and approve payments for the 1st of June to 31st of August 2022 to the value of £113,495.96 and spent to date as shown in the attached report. Do we have a proposer and a seconder? as circulated and recommended by the Finance and Government Committee. Yes, Councillor Clark.
Happy to propose.
Happy to propose. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Oh, sorry. All those in favour?
Carried.
Item 8 is to note the conclusion of the external audit.
That is literally just for noting members that the audit was concluded, came back clean, which is good news, I'm very pleased with it, and so that's just a noting, no vote required.
Right. And on to item 9 is to revisit the budget setting process for 23-24. It comes with a recommendation from the Finance and Government Committee. Could the chair of that committee please propose that recommendation?
Yes, I'm happy to propose that. I'd just like to make a short comment. We all know we've got cost of living crisis, we've got inflation, and I won't make any comments about what the government did last week, but it certainly didn't help us. And from what I can see, the government has no understanding of the effects of this inflation on councils in general. But we are also very aware that people are using a lot less, are struggling to pay for gas and electricity, to pay to put fuel in the cars, and that people are going to be facing a very hard winter. And the Finance and Government Committee requested that if it's all possible, committees do not increase their budget, because we will have to bear the cost of the wage inflation that we have, and ideally we want to bear in mind that people in Crewe do not have a lot of money, spare money, and we don't want to increase the burden on the people of Crewe any more than we absolutely have to. Before the latest inflation, we got in the MTFS only raising the preset by 0.5%. But I'm afraid with the recent inflation that we're facing, we're not going to be able to do that, but we really want to keep that inflation and that increase in our preset to the smallest amount possible, bearing in mind the situation of so many people in Crewe. So I would recommend to Council that we try and keep as far as possible budgets within the limits that they are now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Do we have a seconder?
Just got
Oh,
a comment to
sorry.
make if possible.
Yes, that's fine.
I completely empathise and understand the point around keeping these inflation sort of rises and increases the precept as low as possible. One of the things then is obviously our precept per house for a band is only £85 a year. We're not Cheshire, we're not claiming hundreds every month of people. And so if we match the current rate of inflation, it actually works out as only 15p a week for a band D property if we match the rate of inflation at 8.6%. And while I understand totally the thing around the way that people interpret that as, well, our budget's going up 8.6%, what we need, I'd be looking at that because we don't know what's going to be happening over the next 6 months and where we're going to be, in what position we're going to need to find extra resources from and cut budgets and increase income and such. I just don't think we should be boxing ourselves in at 3.5% at the moment because we've got no idea what this government are going to do. And it just worries me that we're going to have to start looking at cutting services at a time when people actually need community resources more than ever. And those that can afford to chip in will be chipping in more than those at the lower end of the scale. A band A property will be chipping in pennies a week. A band D property is only chipping in less than 20p. And I think the impact that would have on our service of matching inflation compared to cutting services would be beneficial for the wider community.
I understand your point of view, and I think that this is something that we'll review as the year goes on. That, you know, we'll have to see what inflation is like after Christmas and go from there. But as a working figure, that's kind of where we start. We can't manage on any less.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, we will review it and we'll keep everything we possibly can in mind.
Just I think kind of doing for lack of a better word, cost-cutting assessment where we can save pounds and things is a useful thing to do. I think sort of streamlining any sort of local government is a good idea, but it's the thing of just making sure that we're not cutting things that people are actually going to be relying on, and then 6 months down the line next year, inflation's at 12%, and we can't do anything to help people because we've not set the budget at the right level. Thank you.
At the F&G meeting, the discussion that we had was to drive the budgets down as far as we could. And we were asking chairs to look when they do it with the committees. If you've got anything there that you can take out, then we're asking you to take it out. Because we have the same discussion every year about percentage rising or a figure, you know, whether it be 10 pence, 15, 25. When it comes to percentages, it's always higher. So we as a town council always get a lot of flack because it appears that we're putting up by lots of percentage points. And Cheshire East, if you like, it goes up 3%, but we actually pay the bulk. You know, we pay thousands of pounds to Cheshire East now, which is relatively small. But what the F&G, the discussion we have, is that we have to be mindful that this is across Crewe. Everybody will be hit with inflation, either with energy costs, mortgages. It's not just, you know, we're always mindful of the fact that we've got a lot of people who struggle at the best of times. This is going to be even worse, but it's going to be a lot more people, because if you've got mortgages and the increase and so on. So all we're asking, where possible, can you just look and if you can take anything out, do so. But what we're looking at is a realistic figure. And this year it will more so than anything. That's I think where we come from. And I said it, and I mean this heartfelt. We have got to. It's so nice to have in our budget, and if it's left to me, I'd take them out. You know, I wouldn't have a fancy damn Christmas. I wouldn't have all this. I'd just have a basically few burger stalls, disco, fireworks, basically that we used to have, rather than all this middle class, trendy stuff. Don't like it, personally. I just go back to basics, saves us a lot of money, and we can put it back in the budget. That's my own opinion. I bow my head to my colleagues who like this. But if you can take anything out, please do so. And that's where we're at. So thank you.
Can I just come back on that again? No, I think the better way of looking at it is if we're going to be looking at cutting services. So you mentioned things like Lumen there, and again, I appreciate the things around. There's nice times. Should we be planting flowers when we can fund food banks and such? One of the things that I was keen to try and discuss at some point during the process was around things like community grants, and actually, if we can save 10 grand from each budget, that allows us to double the community grant budget, for example, and so on. So I fully understand around the reallocation of resources. Yeah, I just don't want this to be tied down to a figure. We just don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 months. Anything could, let's say, this trust might not be in by Christmas, who knows? Things could get worse. Yeah, I just don't want us putting a figure on and then trying to work specifically to a figure that might be unachievable. Yeah, I'll shut up.
If I may then, I'm just trying to be clear and sure I'm in the spirit of the discussion and the resolution. Rather than the word ensure that overall budget impact is no greater than an increase of 3.5%, seek that. Is that a fair reflection of the conversation and the intent of the decision? Okay, then you have a proposed and second the chair might seek it.
Do we have a proposal? Second it? Thank you. And so, all in favour?
That's carried, Chair, thank you.
Brilliant. Item 9 is to receive correspondence.
I apologise, it's my time from 2010.
I thought that was something wrong. Item 10 is to receive correspondence. We have received letters of condolence from our twin towns in Poland, Germany and France, as well as from our sister town of Crewe in Virginia, USA.
Yes, you've got them in your pack, some very nice sentiments reflected to us. I've tried a translation of the French one, the rest are in English thankfully because I'm not too strong on Polish or German. I think you're minded to seek a response.
Yes.
There's no vote required here, there's been circulated for noting.
I've not seen it, but could we possibly post those on social media to let members of the public know that we've received them, and if there's any way of adding them to the books of condolence, it's sort of like a supplementary.
I'm absolutely certain they can be and will be. So on that,
Anyone else? Sorry. Oh, sorry. Councillor Kelly.
And Sue has acknowledged and thanked all those.
we're coming here, I think the Mayor's about to do that. And so it's right that the members are aware of it and then the Mayor can respond accordingly on behalf of the Council. So I think we're not doing this.
I'm going to back. Next one, item 11, is to receive an update report from the local policing unit. This has been circulated. Do members have any comments?
Could I ask, I'll make a comment on the local police report unit?
Yes, Councillor.
Really, it's in the spirit of monies that we spend on behalf of the residents to do with cameras. I mean, we do spend, thick end of £30,000, and it's people like it. It makes people feel secure in the areas where they've got them. In that particular report, it suggests that the police were, I assume through some grants, looking for more cameras. So there's a couple of points I want to make. The first one is, at a recent open meeting at St Andrew's Church, on behalf of the Nantwich Road Action Group, well attended with members of the public as well as councillors and colleagues from the area. The police were present and they made a comment reference to cameras, particularly the one that's on Nantwich Road, Ruskin Road. I don't know where these cameras are. They said that they'd had an incident, because obviously some members of the public were asking them out, feeling secure on Nantwich Road and so on. And they said they were not working. Police said they were not working. So it begs the question then, and I remember some years back when we were first got the bill to pay this, because Cheshire used to pay it, was about a lot of them were not fit for purpose. They may have had trees by them, they'd grown and some were not working. So could I ask that we request that those cameras that we're paying for are all operating, and if not, they could do so. So we are getting full value for money. And I think, in light of what he said, that wasn't, so I think it probably, in view, wouldn't be. And I know that we get a report, or we get a full report, of being useful in the town centre and antisocial behaviour and so on and so forth. So I just want that really checking through, and if that's got to be medited to do that. The second point I make, which I make regularly to you, as a town clerk, is the camera that the council bought, of which we were using, or should be using, for hotspots where people decide that there's pavements and the streets of Crewe can be used as a refuge tip. And we have some hotspots, and we've all got them in all as well. I know in Crewe South, Alan, in the Alexander Park, Crewe South, he regularly points to areas in certain streets that are regularly dug around. And I myself can name you 3 or 4, Low Street particularly. And we're still waiting. Now, the last update I got was that there was some, I don't want to use this word in public really, but shenanigans going on between Cheshire East, the legal department, and where we could use them, and where they could cut them and so on. And I do feel that they've had long enough. We must have bought them how long ago.
9 months.
I do really think that, you know, again, we spent money there, that the residents quite rightly will be saying, you spent our money, they're not working. It's out of our remit, it's Cheshire East, or it's the legal. Can we have that as an action? It's imperative that that gets on, because it's not getting any better. We've set action groups up, we've set committees up. I'm on an alleyway subcommittee in Crewe South, and we clean alleys, but we also, at our meetings with residents, always ask, why is it not improving in this street? Why is it not improving in that street? What can I say? Those cameras would help, they say, and I agree. So I am raising this publicly so that hopefully we can get those cameras, which we pay for, the residents pay for.
At past committee meeting of this council, I can't remember which one, the phrase incandescent with rage was minuted and then reported back to them. The frustration that you express is shared. We bought those cameras on the recommendation of Cheshire's CCTV unit on the basis they had been installed elsewhere in Cheshire East. We then faced, in my words, not the council's, intransigence in the extreme from Cheshire East Highways to install them on Highways Assets lampposts in effect. I escalated that within Cheshire East Highways to director level, and eventually that got a response that then led to another situation of no action, and the expression of incandescent with rage was repeated to them, and in the end, my understanding now is Cheshire East Highways have removed their objection to install them on their infrastructure, and the CCTV unit are installing them. And we are chasing them, and I'll continue to chase them. Unfortunately, we don't own the assets, we are at the whim, and I will use that, but not on behalf of the council, on behalf of me personally, of what priorities we face battling that are internal in Cheshire East and Cheshire East Highways. But I will continue to express the frustration and disappointment with how slow this has progressed, having installed these elsewhere in Cheshire East with no issue.
If I could just say, I know you pick up my no incandescent with rage. If I could times 2, if somebody could come up with something times 2, that is how exactly I feel on this. Not just this issue, but anything. And I'm sorry, colleagues, but when you mention highways, I just then think, well, highways have never ever support us reference to planning. It's always a highways make no comment. The planners jump on that and we don't get successful residential properties. We get sometimes, I have to use the word, hovels. So highways, when you said that, it frightens me to death. It really does, because they're not on anyone's side but their own. They're easy life. So let's get them in, and I hope that we can support that. All colleagues, if we could support that to a #1 priority.
Yes, Councillor.
Is it worth us agreeing moving a resolution that we are apoplectic with rage?
You can't spell that.
That's true. And I think there's something about democratic accountability, because I'm never quite sure what aspect in highways is run by Ringway Jacobs and what aspect is run by the council that is democratically, because Ringway Jacobs is not, it's a private company, isn't it, that's outsourced to it. And I have suffered, I regularly bash my head against that, because they're not accountable. They don't have to reply to emails, they don't have to reply, and I don't know the best way, but if we could come up with some sort of form of words that would push that issue a bit, and not just about the cameras, about lots of other things as well.
Well, I can certainly submit an epilepsy of words to them and reflect that, and we'll continue to do that. I'll happily report back.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Rhodes.
Can I suggest that we try and take this through a Cheshire's committee, that we make Cheshire's members aware of the issues. And obviously highways and transport is a committee which would be asking, well controls the contract with Ringway Jacobs. So I think if we could write to the chairman of the highways committee and ask for it to be a question, on a written question for the next highways and transport committee. And I'm pretty certain that the fly tipping would come under environment and communities. So perhaps we could also have a written question to the Environment and Communities Committee. Then we don't have to have a member attend, but that will go in public speaking time. That way, so that would be the resolution I suggest, that we write officially the written question to the Highways and Transport Committee and the Environment and Communities Committee.
So you have a proposal there,
Yes.
resolution?
Are we all in favour of this
Second.
proposal? Oh, second, so sorry. We have seconded it,
Yeah.
Councillor Crosby. Could we all vote those in favour?
Unanimous.
And I also suggest that informally we write, the Mayor writes to the Chair of the Highways Committee, which I suppose would be another thing,
We can do that.
making them aware of this situation. Could I also raise an issue on this, because I believe, and other councillors might sound different, that we have not got the number of PCSOs we used to have in Crewe. That they have been reduced in number, or if they've left, they've not been replaced. So we're not getting that element of local policing which we had previously. I believe that the Chief Police and Crime Commissioner said he would replace them with policemen as opposed to PCSOs, but we've not seen much of that. And I know other town councils have invited the Police and Crime Commissioner to actually come and talk to them about policing in their town. And I just wondered if we might think about a similar approach to the Police and Crime Commissioner, so we could ask him about policing in Crewe, or I won't give my personal opinion on policing in Crewe. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Crosby.
I received feedback from a meeting that the PCC held in Crewe East, I think it was 2 months ago. There were a number of comments made which were of interest. One was that in Crewe East, the PC and PCSO had both been required to work in Ellesmere Port recently, as opposed to in Crewe East, because of staffing issues there, which meant that Crewe East lost that local knowledge and having somebody would be. A number of PCs have been promoted to sergeant level, which means that they can't stay within their current team, they have to be relocated elsewhere, and then their posts effectively be backfilled. There was a talk about the fact that more resources have to be allocated away from effectively what is frontline policing to respond to call centre type issues. People were complaining that they couldn't get through to 101 and such, and so resources have been allocated that way. And one of the concerns that I had is that it was being proposed that town councils would fund PCSOs, or at least part of the PCSOs, to then effectively improve what residents wanted to see. That was quite concerning, that we're being asked, it's a political decision to allocate resources the way that the PCC has, and that we are then being asked to fill in the gaps. It is not our role to do so, as my issue.
So the public are paying twice that.
So I'd like to put a resolution that we invite the Police and Crime Commissioner to come and visit us and explain to us how he's improving the policing in Crewe.
Do we have a second for that? Second. All in favour? No one against or abstentions? Finally, we come to item 12. To note the proposed date of the next meeting is Tuesday the 6th of December 2022 at 7 p.m.